Alright, here we go then. The Nostril Picker. What the hell is this 76-minute long film really all about? We'll start with some background information. So it's a 1993 American horror film from Michigan, directed by Mark Nowicki. Not by Patrick J. Matthews, which the case will try and have you believe for some reason. So we follow a pervert who gains magical abilities from a homeless man. He can now change forms when he hums London Bridges Falling Down. He does this to change into a young teenage girl so he can perv on other teenage girls and eventually kill them. But he's being followed and tracked by a discount Dr. Loomis. This is one weird sit.
Oh, what's your name?
Joe. Josephine. Well, you know, everybody calls me Joe. It's like the man's name, just without the E.
He's got cash?
If you got the gas, come on.
So this film has got a lot of issues. While certain bits are entertaining, they're more just entertaining in how bizarre they are. Most of the film is just really boring, and it just boils down to long static shots of people talking in various rooms. It also tries its hand at being funny, but down to bad acting and some really dated humour, it just falls flat on its face. The acting is never hilariously bad. It always just falls into that uninteresting or wooden category, just adding to the boredom. And there are a bunch of missed opportunities here as well. A running joke that it really likes to overuse is the shot of all the girls hanging out with this creepy dude tagging along. And that works in some instances, but because of how inappropriately the main character can act, it would have been really funny seeing him in the girl form acting inappropriately. And honestly, we barely see her throughout most of the film. It just seems like a bit of a shame. The gore, while minimal, is actually really well made. I especially liked the twitching finger nubs. I thought that was really effective. Overall though, the kills are few and we don't really see all that much.
That's the same as the other one. Victim was sliced up pretty good with a large knife. And the bite marks are human. Looks like the same guy. And judging by the depth of the wound on her neck, I'd say the victim died almost instantly.
You went home with a teenage girl. Once at her place, she turned into a middle-aged man and he tried to kill you. Is that right?
More or less.
There's a couple of things I wanted to mention about this film. Firstly, I have seen it before. I watched it back in 2012 with a mate of mine while we were at uni. And there was this one scene that we just could not believe when it came on. It's the montage at the school where the song "I'm Gonna Get Me Some Schooling" kicks in. It's so upbeat and it feels so out of place and weird that we just could not believe what we were seeing. And I'd go so far as to say it's a good scene, because it stuck with us and we still quote it to this day. Secondly, the film is called The Nostril Picker. And it says on the back of the box, he picks his nose, he turns into a girl. That isn't necessarily true. He does pick his nose once or twice, but it has no magical effect on him. It's not even a character-defining trait of his, he just happens to do it in one or two scenes. So why the hell is it called The Nostril Picker? And thirdly, this film really likes to wear its influences on its sleeve. Here's a couple that I noticed. It just blatantly mentions Siskel and Ebert. There's a house on Elm Street, and the family in the house are the Manson family. And the most obvious one, the main character, is called Joe Bukowski. So, I'd rather be reading some Bukowski than watching this. And the print, once again, is horrendous. It's not as bad as last week's, there's no flickering and grain, but it is extremely blurry and there's a lot of ghosting issues and interlacing issues and the colours are way off. And the sound is really bad this week as well. It's really low quality and it keeps ducking in and out and makes it really difficult to understand what anyone is saying. This is definitely one of the worst prints we've seen so far. And on the disc, we get nothing new. We only get 2 repeated trailers this week, chapter select and stills. We don't get filmographies because everyone who worked on this has done nothing else. And let's take a look at this case. This is by far the shortest bit of information we've had on the back of one of these. It reads more like a tagline than an actual description. I guess they had nothing to say about it really. It definitely implies that he picks his nose to change into a girl with this. Maybe they should have added in, he hummed London Bridge, just to make it a bit clearer. And I can't believe they got the director wrong too. This Patrick J. Matthews, from what I gather, was the director of photography and the producer, and the film was actually directed by this Mark Nowicki, who they've put as a producer here. Just seems like a really stupid mistake. And we've actually got some logo update here for once. There is no logo on the beginning of this, it just jumps straight to the menu. It's been a while since that's changed. Overall then, this was not a great film. It was weird and sleazy, and even though a few bits were interesting, there was not enough of them to make me ever want to recommend this to anyone. And at 76 minutes long, it really dragged. If for some reason you are interested and you wanted an upgrade, I'm afraid you're completely out of luck. There is no other release outside of this one, and this is definitely not worth your time. So, rubbish film, and you know what? I'm going to call it there. I think it's time for me to have a break. So far, I've covered 24 films of the Screamtime Collection, and when I return, I'll be doing the last 21 films. It's been great so far, I've really enjoyed doing this series, and it's been fascinating seeing the ups and downs of the series. There's been some fantastic films that I'm so glad I got a chance to watch. And there's been some awful films that sitting through and having to critically look at these films and make notes was an absolute slog. But I'll never forget doing it. A couple films that stood out to me. For the good, I definitely recommend City of the Living Dead, Toolbox Murders, and Stage Fright. Those were great. I really enjoyed all 3 of those. If you can get nice Blu-rays of them, definitely do that. But I'd recommend those ones. And I would avoid, at all costs, Grave of the Vampire, The Slayer, and Drive-In Massacre. Those were terrible films. I think Drive-In Massacre might be the worst one I've seen so far. Worst print was definitely Grave of the Vampire. That one wins worst print, but Drive-In Massacre was just a slog to sit through. It's interesting as well now, looking at these, a lot of these films have been re-released elsewhere, so it kind of feels like collecting Vipco might seem redundant to a lot of people nowadays. And that's completely understandable, that makes a lot of sense. For me, it's completely a nostalgia reason that I've got these, buying them from markets as a teenager and that sort of thing. I just wanted to see what they had to offer, and it's quite interesting having them all and being able to see how good a release company it can be and how awful it can be. When I return as well, I really hope that we get some new special features. It seems like they've just been really boring, the special features, and really repeated these past like 10, 15 films. Really dull. I remember when we used to get we had interviews on some of them. I think it was Island of Death. We had an interview with the director and stuff like that. We need more of that, I think, in these. And even more anomalies. Like, remember in the Asylum episode when there was a trailer for Tim? Maybe I'll check Tim out in my time off. Tell you what that one's all about then, eh? Like, why is that a trailer in this? It has nothing to do with this series at all. It baffles me. It really does baffle me. Anyway, it's been a lot of fun. And thank you for watching, and thank you to the patrons as well. They've really helped me make this series. Couldn't have done it without you. And I'll be back in October 2021, where I'll be looking at the second half of the Vipco Screamtime Collection. So I'll see you then.